Welcome to Mind Power, a Brains R Us program brought to you by Centerpointe Research Institute. In these special episodes, you'll hear thought-provoking articles designed to expand your mind, useful tips to improve your life, and the latest neuroscience research to help you tap into your fullest potential. Now here's Marc Gilson with today's Mind Power.
The Imaginary Brain Museum, a meeting of the minds with some of the greatest brains in history, by Marc Gilson. Today, I'm going to ask you to use your imagination a little bit. Pretend that you've decided to indulge your morbid curiosity today by visiting my Imaginary Brain Museum. No, it's not a museum of imaginary brains. It's an imaginary museum filled with brains. As I welcome you inside, you find yourself in a quiet room lined with shelf after shelf of large, clear jars containing preserved brains. Yes, I know, I'm a little weird with my fascination with brains. But can you blame me? Is there anything in the universe more incredible and enigmatic than the human brain? Think about this. Every single itch, eye wink, inhale and exhale, every worry, laugh, fantasy, thrill, heartbreak, muscle movement, heartbeat, taste, and pain you've experienced in life thus far has all been processed and experienced thanks to your brain. Your brain has read every book you've read, heard every noise you've heard, sung every song you've sung, and spoken every word you've said. Do you remember the time that mean dog chased you as a kid? Your brain got your legs and lungs and heart pumping so you could get away. Remember your first kiss and your brain got so flooded with feel-good hormones, it could barely think straight. While admittedly a little macabre, my imaginary brain museum is also quite unique. It's possible that it's the only museum of brains that exists entirely within brains. And now that you've joined me inside this fictional museum, you can see that I've managed to assemble a rather impressive collection of some of the most remarkable brains in history. Let me introduce you to a few of them. Here, for example, is the brain of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, composer of over 40 symphonies, 27 piano concertos, 18 full masses, 13 operas, and dozens of other concertos. All that music from this one brain. This brain you see before you belonged to a man who began composing music at the tender age of 5. While not as appreciated in his own time as he should have been, even some of the harshest music critics were forced to concede that the music produced within this brain was, quote, of a divine origin, unparalleled, luminous, and of the deepest genius. Even today, many of his masterpieces leave listeners speechless with their beauty. Next to Mozart's brain, we have that of Leonardo da Vinci, Italian painter, innovator, poet, engineer, artist, and anatomist, a true polymath. His is certainly one of the most brilliant brains history has ever seen. From Da Vinci's brain sprang countless visionary designs for everything from flying machines and solar-powered devices to a military-like tank and a suit for exploring underwater. But most of us know Da Vinci's brain as the creator of the Mona Lisa, The Last Supper, and the iconic design of the Vitruvian Man. Although Leonardo had no formal academic training, he's considered by many to be a bona fide genius and the quintessential Renaissance man. There are many others here as well, although we won't have time to discuss them all. But look, there's Shakespeare's brain, and here we have that of Cleopatra, and there's Julius Caesar's brain, and here's Marie Curie's, truly one of the finest scientific brains of her era. There on the next row, third from the left, is one of my favorites, Sir Isaac Newton, who literally wrote the book on the laws that govern the physical universe. Philosophiae Naturalis Principia, or the Principia for short. Standing there, surrounded by this impressive collection of the finest brains the world has ever known, it's easy to get a little overwhelmed. These are the brains that not only changed history, but wrote it. Here in this museum are the very biological origins of the most profound and influential ideas humankind has ever known. Are you beginning to see a little of my fascination with this imaginary brain museum? But as we stand there admiring these remarkable cerebrums, there's something troubling you about all of this, something beyond the discomfort one might feel while standing in a room full of brains. As you walk around the room again, you look closer at each of the specimens in their jars. You examine the brain of Michelangelo and then inspect Aristotle's before moving over to take a close look at the brain of Lao Tzu, the author of the Tao Te Ching. You finally tell me what you have realized after thoroughly inspecting dozens of remarkable brains. These brains are all the same. But how can that be? Sure, there are minor differences in the relative sizes of certain parts of the brain, or perhaps a very slight difference in the way this brain's neurotransmitters responded to a certain stimuli, or the amounts of various brain cells or hormones in different brains. But when it comes down to it, whether we're looking at the brain of William Shakespeare or William the Conqueror, or whether we're looking at the brain of a powerful athlete or a diminutive scientist, there's nothing fundamentally different from one brain to the next. The brains are all structured the same, with the same anatomical components, each with a hippocampus, pituitary gland, a corpus callosum, and a frontal lobe, each with about 90 billion neurons, each weighing in at around 3 pounds, which is about the weight of a small pineapple. Each brain could, when properly mounted inside of its respective living skull, generate almost 25 watts of power, and each one uses over 20% of the body's total energy. In these and other respects, none of these brains varied much compared to the others. Nor, in fact, were they much different than virtually any other human brain we could find, including our own. Yet some brains were those of musical geniuses, while others belonged to military leaders, physicists, or philosophers. Some are men, some are women. Some are from recent times, while others belong to people living millennia ago. This realization of yours is an important one. Why? Because it reminds us of something important about success and about life in general. While it's true that we may be born into different socioeconomic environments or have different educational backgrounds, perhaps different degrees of opportunities to succeed, and even different physical bodies, we all have been equipped with brains not much different than any of those in my museum. Yes, some of us have challenges with our brains or experience brain trauma at some point that can affect our functioning, sometimes even severely. But if we removed all the name tags from my collection of brains, it would be nearly impossible to distinguish your brain from that of Plato or Catherine the Great. The brains in my collection are not necessarily any bigger, stronger, or better than yours. And yet the people who used those brains during their lifetime made an impact through their art, science, leadership, or thought in some way. They influenced and shaped the world we inhabit. Whether they consciously realized it or not, they chose to apply the power of their brain to incredible degrees of effectiveness. It's too easy to assume that those individuals we read about in history books were somehow different or better than others. But it's a mistake to search for and focus solely on the differences. And in a way, it does them as much of a disservice as it does us. Most of them never claimed to be better equipped than others. They simply used the powerful resource they'd been born with, the same resource you and I were born with. They tapped into the potential of their own brains very much like ours, and they drew from them the riches of wisdom, music, art, understanding, and leadership. We don't need to change the world or become a household name in order to be successful in life. But if we want to be happy, healthy, and prosperous, we should remember not only the remarkable collection of brains in my imaginary brain museum, we should also remember your important insight, that we've each been gifted with a tool every bit as amazing as any on display. Their brains, our brains, are tools of spectacular power and versatility. And regardless of other factors or challenges we face, we can use that tool like others before us have to create truly remarkable and memorable things in life. Perhaps every brain deserves a place in the Imaginary Brain Museum. What will you create? What will you discover? Who will you inspire? What kind of life will you craft with the power of your brain? Thank you for listening. Until next time, be well.
This episode of Brains Are Us is brought to you by the Buy HoloSync app, the only official app for HoloSync. Enjoy quick daily brain-enhancing meditations, long-form HoloSync radio stations for up to 8 hours of continuous brainwave states, easily access all of your HoloSync suites and courses, and listen to more Brains Are Us podcast episodes, all from your favorite device. Head on over to holosync.app/podcast26 right now to claim a free 7-day premium trial, no credit card necessary.